Yeah, first year.
Okay. I was like, wait, that's Dylan. Okay.
All right, guys, we can go ahead and get started. Good to see everybody. We're gonna begin with prayer led by Elijah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so dear God, we come to you humbly in prayer, thanking you for the opportunity to be gathered here today. And we ask that you would help us and empower us as we strive to be better. The prophet Micah said, help us to walk in your name. And we pray. Amen.
You. And if anyone else would like to say the prayer, just shoot me an email. I had the form at the beginning of the year. As we wrap up the term, I'm just going to go back through the people who said they were interested at the beginning of the prayer. As a reminder, you don't have to be Catholic to say the prayer. Awesome. Roll call.
All right. So, question of the day is, if you have a favorite niche movie, like something maybe not a lot of people have heard of. James Barrett.
Dark Knight. No, for that.
Abby T. Campy.
My go-to documentary, which is a weird thing to have, is Trial of the Chicago Seven.
So good. So good.
Matthew Dunn.
Sight, the movie.
Kate Showman.
I'm gonna go with Romeo and Juliet is the first thing I thought of.
That's a winner for sure. Alex Mitchell. Urban Student.
Spider-Man.
Jack Roberts.
Not really niche, but I like The Hangover.
Matthew
Recommended.
Henry Kellen.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Justice Walker. Zach Taylor.
Doctor Strange Love.
Lauren Whitlash.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Lord Clement.
500 days for the
Michelle Sabrina. Matthew Montes. Wait, say it again. I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
You said Bird Dennis.
Gotcha. Matthew Montes.
Not Perfect Live.
Tommy Stacks.
Jojo Rabbit.
John Knotts.
The Gladiator.
Anna Beck.
This isn't really niche, but I love the sound of music.
Andrea Jasso.
The Nico movie.
That's a good one. Lindsay Lark.
Standing ovation. It's like a really bad.
Oh my god. Yeah. Duck Soup. Jaden Russell.
Rush Hour.
Joseph Leopold. Janie Fu.
One Direction is the best movie.
Sophia Grierson.
Live action Cinderella with Lily James.
That's really good. Grace Lynch.
Is it a giver?
Kyle Hill.
Probably McFarland USA.
Charlie Griffin. Andrew Canfield.
The Ridiculous Six.
Ryan Pilot.
Bullet Train.
Francesca Lichtenberg. Oh wait, I'm her property. Good. Nicole Barrios.
Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Matthew Rosa.
The original Red Dawn.
Rosamund Crosby.
Andrew Ryan. I love Elf.
Emma Velez.
500 Days of Summer.
Aaliyah Applet. I don't think this is niche, but not enough people know about the Cheater Girls, so. Patrick Mulligan.
The Untracked.
Okay. Walker Bagley.
Training Places.
Emma Herring. That's a good one. Michaela Copley. Andrew Kemp.
Yeah.
We'll talk through about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harry Waterberg. Anna Tierlick.
I don't know niche as the Godfather.
Mark Metrius. Emily McDougall.
Michael Beck.
Elijah. Dawson.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Babe.
The Princess Bride.
Thomas.
So the Sandlot.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Or doesn't like it. Boondock Saints. Mine is Monuments Men. It's like a World War II art theft movie. Very niche, very odd. That's everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Approval of the minutes? Any changes? Lindsay? Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We'll now vote on approving the minutes. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstained? All right, the minutes are approved. Moving into executive announcements, next week is Self-Love Week, and Nicole is a member of the Health and Wellness executive cabinet. I don't know what that took me so long. So she's gonna give us a rundown of what's happening next week.
Yeah, so next week starts Self-Love Week, and on Monday we have a free yoga sculpt class that's open to all students, so definitely come by that. On Wednesday, our department is gonna have a self-love table in Duncan Student Center from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we're gonna be handing out like self-care like goodie bags, so definitely stop by Duncan if you can. And then Thursday night we have Light the Night, which we're renting out Howard Park for ice skating. Oaks open to all students from 8 to 10, so come by with your friends.
Awesome. And Dawson's gonna send out an all school email with all the links and everything, so you guys can let your halls know, spread some love next week. And also, if you guys don't already follow our Instagram, it's at ndstu.gov. That way you guys can stay privy as to everything that's happening. All right, general orders. First, we're gonna look at SO 242523. Lindsay?
Motion to dispense with the reading. Second.
We'll now vote on dispensing with the reading. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, the reading is dispensed with. We are now in questioning, and obviously Thomas is here, Elijah's there. Andrew?
I have some questions. So is the motion to close a meeting debatable?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. If I'm wrong, I can look.
I don't think it is. That's what I was asking.
Okay, yeah, I could be wrong. That was my initial guess. I'll look for it. If it's not, then
I'm pretty sure it is as well, but he can.
I'll
look for that right now.
I'll give you a final answer. From what I remember it was, but I could be mistaken.
All right, Matthew?
So oftentimes only portions of a meeting are closed. However, this says the minutes and agenda of any meeting that's been closed should not be published. Does that mean the entire minutes and the entire agenda, including the parts that are not closed, should not be distributed?
That's a good question. I think, how it probably would be interpreted is the sections that are closed. I think you raise a fair point, though, that potentially we should change the wording of that to make that clear. But yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Laura?
Does parliamentary procedure suggest the 2/3 vote to close the meeting?
Does it suggest the 2/3 vote to close the meeting? No, that's been established. So the 2/3 vote isn't changing necessarily. That was what a past Senate had agreed upon. Parliamentary procedure, I don't know of anything in the book that says a certain vote threshold to close a meeting.
Any other questions, or I'll take it back? I'll do Andrew first, then Matthew.
Yeah, I had a question. So obviously this states about how the vote's closed, so I assume that's through Google form.
Yeah,
Okay. And then on that note, so do you recall how long last year the closed vote for judicial council president took to find out the results for?
yeah. So it definitely took a while. I can't tell you what the minutes are, but what I will also tell you is that the reason that it took so long was because it was so close. And because we needed to confirm like whether every single person was like a valid voter of that. So yes, I think that's a fair point. My response to that would be that I think in cases where we are even considering to close a meeting, I think it is almost always going to be a sensitive issue for one reason or another. And I think that time, in my mind, is worth it in the sense of providing senators, if they want it, the opportunity to close the meeting, if that makes sense. So I think, yes, I agree with you, like a lot of time taken. Ultimately, I see that as a worthy sacrifice, if that makes sense.
Matthew, then Laura, then Jackal.
I had two questions. So first, if a motion was made to close a meeting, a Google form would be sent out, but the people would still be in the room, like while the vote was going on, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, John, I called you by the wrong name.
And then second of all, the agenda for like meetings are sent out before the Senate meeting occurs. So what would be the point of saying the agenda shall not be released if it's already released, regardless of what happens?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Again, that's not anything like I'd change, if that makes sense. I'm happy to do that. That part comes from the text that was already in the Senate bylaws. If you guys think it makes sense to remove that since agendas are already sent out, I'm amenable to that if you want to make that friendly amendment.
Mark?
Of like a closed vote or closed yada yada.
Who has Okay, so, sorry, just to clarify, your question is who like has, who voted for what?
If I like make motion to close the meeting, are we then, like, in the case where there are like people who aren't in the Senate, are we sending them out or they're there?
No, so if it's just the vote, right, what happens is a Google form is sent to the Senate listserv. Voting members can then, go on that Google form, fill it out. Anyone that's in the room is still there, but if it closes, if the vote passes, 2/3 say close the meeting, then they would leave. Does that make sense?
Is it a follow-up? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess if we're making a motion to close a meeting and then we're sending out a form about it. And then like you said, like if it was just really close and you need like extra time, is that gonna delay our meetings or render them able to be had? Is it gonna postpone the vote?
So again, I think this is definitely like case by case thing, right? Where I think like in a certain case, I think it's pretty easy for us to go in and just say, okay, it was 2/3 passed, 2/3 not. I think the case of last year was for like a nomination, it was like one vote difference, right? And we didn't have the availability to like do that right then. Will it? I think that in a case where there's still more debate to be had, we would make that call. You know what I mean?
And then I'm sorry, just the original question was
I apologize. Yeah.
you answered my follow-up questions. It's great. I appreciate it. Who sees the results of closed vote?
Usually it'd be the chairperson, parliamentarian, and secretary who would see that and make that call.
And those would be the only people.
Correct.
All right, just gonna move on to John really quickly.
I don't know if it's like, not phrases, but, if you guys are looking at the vote, I know in the past, like, people have been able to get access to to see who voted for and against them. Is there anything like we could add that would help for that? So no one because I trust you guys, but if you're looking 4 or 5 years down the line, how do you know you're gonna trust the next chair of people?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's ultimately something I haven't necessarily thought about, a way to prevent that, right? And in some sense, that's just if a person wants to do that and maybe has a malicious intent, there's not much that we can do to address that in my mind. If you have ideas of how to prevent that, I'm open to those, but I couldn't really think of any to solve that issue, if that makes sense.
Laura?
So this doesn't address the issue of outside pressure of people in the room in terms of their physical presence in a room.
No, I mean, they're still in the room while the vote's going on. It's just that you wouldn't have to in a closed vote, you wouldn't raise your hand to vote, you just fill out a form. So yes.
Any other questions, Ilya?
Just a point of clarification, this is basically saying a vote to close the meeting, so then those people would leave, but if there was any pressure, the people, I guess, applying the pressure would have to leave after it's a closed meeting?
Correct.
Correct, okay.
John?
We publish who voted for what afterwards?
No, so we usually publish, we let you know the numbers, but in a closed vote, we wouldn't say who voted one way or the other. No, in a closed vote.
If it's a follow-up, you can go ahead.
Follow-up. So if you're a senator and you're trying to pass a bill and the only people who can see it are you 3 people, I feel as a senator, it'd be kind of hard to trust only 3 people with a vote that encompasses 40 people.
So I would say we can talk about this in debate. Mike, can I respond? Is that fine to that point?
Yeah, but I would say, that's definitely more of a point of debate, but.
I'll respond to that and just say that this wouldn't be to vote against a bill, right? This would solely be to close the meeting, and that motion would also have to come from a senator. The motion itself couldn't come from us. You guys are still voting, and ultimately we would publish the number of the form. And I mean, if there's a question of that, I'm sure that we'd be able to show you the form of a result, right? I'd even be open to saying, okay, we publish the pie chart of the yes and no's, right? I'm open to that, but I think publishing the names is something that I'm not as debatable on, just because the point of a closed vote is to protect the identities of who voted which way.
Yeah, we can talk more about it in debate as well. I'm gonna do Andrew, then Alexander.
Yeah, you mentioned in here how transparency is an important value. So if someone wants to close a meeting, and the vote's automatically closed to do so, where would you say the system of accountability for who voted which way and who made what decisions kind of begins?
So yeah, so this is a good question. The reason I put this in is I think that there are certain guardrails that need to be had and kind of balance this. And I think currently, right, we're still voting to close the meeting, and it's not all meetings are closed, right? We're still, going through that process. I'm not changing the vote threshold. I think the only thing I'm changing is the fact that, like, if people want a closed meeting, there's clearly something in the air that is sensitive, that people don't want their names associated to one side or another. And I think currently the balance is just slightly tipped away from that privacy. And this is only maybe marginally tipping it into where I see it as most fair. Does that sort of make sense? Okay.
Housing.
Motion to move out of questioning and into debate.
Second, we will now vote on moving out questioning and into debate. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we are now in debate. Are there any points, Thomas, I'll let you start.
I'll just say too, like, I don't want to like relitigate things that have happened this year. I'll just say that I think I don't expect this to even ever happen in this term, right? What I will say is that I think as we look towards future senates, it's important to think about procedures. And I think that's sort of where this is sort of coming from of, look, if in my mind, it's like if people really want a closed meeting and 2/3 of them want it, I think they should be able to do that. And I think the act of having to, if it is because of, the observers here, or they don't want it in minutes or whatever it is, I think they should be able to make that vote in privacy to then have a private discussion, if that makes sense.
I'd like to make two friendly amendments. The first is to just strike the word agenda, and the second would be to say the portion of minutes from the closed portion of a meeting shall not be published online.
I accept those. Could you just clarify those one more time?
Oh yeah, first is to just strike the word agenda, and obviously,
Yep.
and then the second to say the portion of the minutes pertaining to the closed portion of a meeting of the Senate shall not be published.
Pertaining to. Does that fix it? I just made the edits. I don't know if it updated.
You can keep going.
As the portion of the minutes pertaining to a closed meeting in the Senate shall not be published online or released to any individual. Is that
To the closed portion of the meeting.
to the closed portion? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I accept those. Yeah.
John?
It's kind of an opinion on the subject. I think since this kind of Senate's kind of trying to replicate like the US Senate and Congress, I think it's kind of weird that we have a closed vote in the first place. I think if we're accountable to public office, our decisions should be public. So I'm firmly against a closed vote of any sorts. I don't really agree with the fact that we close a vote to close the meeting. I think it just, especially since it's not even online, I think it just helps, or it does not help create transparency for student government. So.
If you have a response to that, can you?
Yeah, I think we should be transparent as public officials. I totally agree with you. I think the difference between, the US Senate and this is that we are all students and there are additional social pressures involved with things. And yes, like we are elected to represent our dorms, but we're also classmates. We're also have, social circles. And I think in an age where that is like very prevalent, I think that in some times it is important to have closed meetings. And I'll also say this, the Senate committees have closed meetings and closed votes. That does exist for things involving national security, for example, things that should be private, right? So if you guys decide that things are really private, I think there's still some similarities there in my view.
Laura?
Can I inquire about something? Maybe like a board meeting?
Sure.
Are recordings still published of Senate meetings online?
Yes, if you go to the Notre Dame Student Government YouTube channel, you'll see a very cute YouTube banner that I made. And also all of the recorded things of the Senate, which are published at least a week after the original Senate meeting.
So if there was a closed thing, it would also be struck from the recording?
Yes.
Okay, is that named in the bill? Anywhere?
I mean, yeah, so currently it would not be published online. That would encompass the recording as well, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. I'm just gonna do Andrew just because he's
So I think someone can want something to be private if they're for or against it, so I don't think someone's vote on to close a meeting suggests their position on that. And voting can be closed by anyone making a motion, but with a majority vote, and that closes a vote itself without debate. So I think, I'm not sure we need to enshrine it if someone can just make a motion to close the vote themselves, and therefore that allows people to see who's closing the vote, and then once, whether that passes or not, then it can go into a closed meeting. So I think, I'm not sure it needs to necessarily be enshrined, whereas someone can just make that motion if they choose to in that situation.
Grace? Just responding to that, I think when originally we had the Constitution, we didn't have app like this, where someone could be going up and we all have to go to school and work with each other. And just because some dorm may believe something or someone else may believe something, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And so personally, I know I wanted to close the meeting, but I was afraid to do it because I didn't want repercussions. I didn't want my face on this. So selfishly, I didn't close the meeting, even though it would have been better. So I think this is a safeguard for future senates, because I can imagine it'll only get crazier from here. Matthew?
Two things. One, could I have another amendment to say only the portion of the video that pertains to the closed meeting should not be published and the rest can be published online?
Can I just add the portion of the minutes and video?
Sure. Yeah.
I accept that, yeah.
And then the second one, I would say if this was to have like auto closed vote to have a closed vote, I think that would be different. But this is a closed vote to have a closed meeting. I think there's still some accountability there, and it's not too secretive for me. I think it would be different if it was a closed vote to have a closed vote, because then like you're kind of taking yourself away from the vote entirely. But I think because it's just to have a closed meeting and there's still open discussion and open debate and there's an open vote still, I think this is a good change and I support it.
I just saw Leah and then I'll go back to you, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, I'm in support of this. I think that we've had a lot of things happen this year where I feel like there has been a lot of peer pressure. And I'm just gonna echo like what you said after, like, especially with social media. And I think like one thing we have to distinct ourselves from, like, yes, we are adults, but like we are still students figuring out life, and like our decisions and our repercussions or even the things we do and say, like, it's not like it's gonna roll over. Like there are people who I feel like I've seen like an effect on how other people treat them. And I also think like sometimes even if we don't necessarily agree with like a decision or like a bill is something we personally agree with, we're representing our constituents. But like people I feel like don't always understand that here as well. So they sometimes take it out on senators or people who represent Senate. So I think that this is just an extra precaution, like Thomas said, and not to make things skewed one way or the other, but to make them more fair for everybody that's in the room.
Andrew?
Yeah, I just want to directly counter Matthew's point. So the motions to close a vote or close a meeting, there's no debate allowed on both of those motions that you can make. So therefore, there's really no accountability with that. This kind of just advocates anyone from anyone from having a discussion about it, and then there's really no.
Okay, sorry, Lindsay, then Matthew.
Motion to move out of question or out of debate and into a vote. Second.
Okay, we will now vote on moving out of debate and into a vote. All those in favor? All opposed?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And debate is 2/3, 13. Could everyone raise their hands if you voted yes, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That fails.
Okay, we're still in debate. Who else had John?
So just to confirm, there's no debate between debating and postpone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This might have been a kind of a mistake on my part. I'm going to confirm that.
Oh.
Here.
You got the Sturgis pulled up? Is that the Sturgis? Dang, look at you.
You can keep it.
He has one, trust.
I sure do. You have it like pulled up right here.
It was from last year, huh?
Fair enough.
The guy.
I'm wrong. I'll concede that.
Moving on. Alexander?
Would it be possible to introduce a provision in here that makes it a debatable rather than makes it a debatable motion? I mean, altogether, if you, what is it, the Constitution overrides the rules of order. Not sure how you phrase such an amendment.
You can do that. I'd be in favor of it. Are you making that friendly amendment?
Yeah, sure, I'll go for it. If a motion is made to close a meeting, the vote shall be automatically closed, and that motion shall be debatable.
I accept that.
Nicole, I saw your hand up and
Is it possible to vote to close a meeting, like on a Google form, like before the meeting even starts, like 24 hours
you
before?
can phrase that as a point of debate.
That's,
Sorry,
yeah.
as a point of debate, if you're
Yeah.
asking that question, that's
Yes.
fine. Yeah.
So the reason why I would say we should, so there's a world where it could happen like mid-meeting, we decide this should be closed for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I feel like that's kind of like, not a waste of time, but it just like takes time. Like, why can't we just decide it before going into the meeting?
I would probably say things come up in meetings that change the meeting. I think, like, for example, if we're talking about, here's an example that I've been thinking about. Let's say we're talking about OCS procedure, and someone wants to share kind of experience of their own experience with OCS, but doesn't want that put on video, put in the minutes, or put on the observer. I think in some sense, that's a new thing comes up that you should be able to say, okay, I want a closed meeting at that location.
How do you unclose it? Is there? Does? Meetings can be unclosed?
Yes, that's by vote, 2/3 vote, same.
Any other point, Irvin?
As a point of debate, would that require a closed vote to unclose the meeting?
No.
John?
So say one last thing. I think as a senator, which is my point of opinion, I think that as a senator, when you sign up to be a senator, you kind of should expect that everything you do should be public. I mean, it's basically a student government position, and it's kind of your responsibility, in my opinion, to be open about everything you do here. So I don't have any concerns, at least for myself, about like things people might say about me because I do stuff here. That's kind of what I signed up for. That's just my opinion about the role as a senator, is that everything you should do should be public, and you should be proud of what you do no matter what people say.
Grace?
I just immediately just want to say, you still have to sit in this room afterwards, and we still have to keep quorum. I think quorum is the most important thing. You have to remain peaceful, and you have to work with these people in the future. And it's not the fact that you're not able to fulfill your duties or stand for what you represent. You are standing for what you represent and putting it down on the forum, and you can have to report that back to your dorm. But it's not okay for someone else from Notre Dame to threaten you or to say certain things online, which has been a concern of the past. And so it's not that you're not representing what you believe, it's that you're not getting hate threats. And the US Constitution does have rules against hate threats and hate messages. Sometimes at Notre Dame, it's not strictly enforced, so this is protection.
Sophia?
Yeah, I would just disagree that as signing up for senator, you sign up for everything you do to be public. I don't think that's true. And I think Grace put it nicely, that there's a lot of changes in ways that technology is used to target people directly in ways that just are not okay. And I think as student government officials, we have to do our role to prevent that in ways that we can.
Irvin?
Can I offer a friendly amendment?
Yeah, sure.
Can you, because like we didn't really debate before we vote, right? So can you put the end motion shall be debatable before the vote, please, or make a quick purpose?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would say that, yeah, the debate would happen.
Yeah, so I'm like just order of that.
Sure, yeah, I'm fine with that. So,
The motion, yeah. So the motion shall be debatable and then the vote to do social.
like before the
Yeah.
vote occurs? Sure, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Just want to make sure I get everybody. Matthew?
I would like to discuss the idea that people aren't accurately representing their constituencies by having a closed vote. I think we just heard testimony that some people were not able to vote the way that they thought their constituencies wanted, or in the way they thought was best because of these threats or because of social pressure. I think if we want to be more democratic and want people to accurately I guess, depict what their people want or what they think is best for their constituency. I think, again, we just heard testimony of people who said they did not vote in the way they thought was best or did not vote in the way they thought their people wanted because of threats or because of potential harm. So I just would like to counter that people are being less represented if we pass this.
Great, and just as a reminder, guys, since I know it's a longer meeting, but please just keep the side conversations to a minimum. If you have a point of debate, you're more than welcome to make it by raising your hand. Matthew?
I think a key point of being a senator is like getting held accountable for your actions. So I think like everybody, nobody really knows much about Senate. But even in Senate where the public can trust us more because we're actually releasing what we're doing. We're not pulling it. It's better.
Do you have a response to that?
My response to that would be, we've yet to close a meeting this year. Can't remember the last time it happened, but I can definitely think of times where it would be important, particularly with sensitive issues. And if we want to continue kind of having Senate work on those sensitive issues, I think this is an important thing to do for the future.
Aaliyah?
I was also just gonna say, like, there are voting members of Senate or even just members of Senate who are not directly elected as senators. Like every class council officer has to, like, or class president has to serve on Senate. And so while I did obviously understand that being the class president is a very public thing, there are things that for the class of 2027, like I sit on meetings for that are in private. I don't think every single aspect of what I do needs to be publicized. And I think that there is a certain level of accountability that is held within our advisors and within things that are happening within this room, and other senators can keep you accountable. So I just think the idea of everything we do needs to be public, especially when like being Senate is a part of my job, but it is like it's a portion of it. Like not everything always needs to be public.
Laura? Yeah.
The debate to close a meeting would be public. The debate to vote to close a meeting would be public.
Would be, correct.
Is my opinion that would also lead to undue pressure. I don't think that resolves the undue pressure if the debate's public.
I would, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I would kind of disagree with that only because it's not it's still not talking about the actual issue, right? You're just talking about closing or not. Very different from talking substantive about the issue where that pressure, I think, would be more seen for those types of comments, if that makes sense.
But you're debating your position on whether the vote is closed, and that could also be seen as a negative.
It definitely, can I respond? I apologize.
No, that's fine.
It definitely could. I agree with you that it could. My point is that like, I don't care as much about that. I care more about the content stuff that I think should be a little bit more protected than it currently is.
Okay, Urban just has had her hand up, and then Alex O'Donoghue.
I just have a point of inquiry. So, I mean, because like we're all talking about like us being represented at our dorm, I mean, for almost all senators. Can we disclose what we voted if the voting, like the meeting is closed to our dorm, like just as ourselves, or like, is it like private, just only senators can know? Or like how?
Yeah.
There's nothing against that directly in the Constitution, is what I'll tell you.
Alex?
Well, anyways, the guy who introduced the friendly amendment that Senator Howard's referring to, I think it is worth at least talking a little bit about my reasoning behind it. There is a certain, well, I actually do think that it's a very good idea to have a closed meeting. To have a closed vote for a closed meeting. I think there's a certain wisdom in the current status quo of skewing it a little bit towards not closing the meeting for the transparency reasons that John Knott and others have referenced. Transparency is very important for us because, quite frankly, if anyone has been on Fizz or talked to their student constituents, they know that we are not the most trusted institution. And so I think it's pretty darn critical that we, at the very least, make it a little bit difficult to chip away at our own transparency. So there has to be some sort of skew. And I think that making this debate, the debate at least public, puts in still some skew without making it so difficult as to be impossible. You know what I mean?
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, sorry.
Are there any other points of debate? Lindsay?
Motion to move out of debate and into a vote.
Second.
We will now vote on moving out of debate and into a vote. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we will now vote on SO 24, 25, 23. Please raise your hands high. All those in favor?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I have 26. Okay.
Okay, all opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All abstain?
2. That passes 2/3.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Just while we're still in general orders, we do have some nominations here and some, oh, Lindsay?
I seek unanimous consent to move item A and B from new business into general orders.
Are there any objections to that?
That's just
A and B, it's
Nomination.
the two nominations.
okay.
Are there any objections to that here? Yeah. Are there any objections to the unanimous consent? All right, seeing that there are none, items A and B are moved up. Thank you guys for doing that. First, we'll look at the nomination for student union historian, Irvin.
Motion to dismiss the reading.
Second.
We'll now vote on this the reading. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, sorry, we are now in questioning, and is Monica here? Monica's back there. So if you guys have any questions. Matthew?
Oh, why do you want to be the historian?
I'm serving the deputy historian for the past school year, all of this past year. And I feel like I have the experience to finish this term as a student union historian well, and to not let this, the work that Elijah left behind to not pile up for the next term. And I also would like to foster more of a connection with the other branches of the student government, because I feel like that making the archive should be a kind of a two-way conversation, and where it's more collaborative about what's going in there.
Laura?
Do you intend to seek a term as student union historian next? I'm undecided.
Alexander?
Like I asked your predecessor, do you have any favorite historians?
No particular.
Andrew?
Could you tell us about some of the things that you've accomplished in your time as deputy?
Yes, we stopped operations around a couple months ago, so I might be on the lower, but so I compiled, like, sorted through the years, but it was around 8 terms for just determining what should go in our archive from that. So weeding out sensitive information, things like that, and so compiling that to go into the archive, and I sent that through Elijah. There are a few projects that started and have not finished because operations stopped. I think that just the general sorting was probably all that got done as historian.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, Lindsay?
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Oh, you can go ahead.
We also compiled information on past student union, or sorry, judicial council presidents.
Lindsay?
Motion to move out of questioning and into debate.
Second, we'll now vote on moving out questioning and into debate. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we are now in debate. Monica, if you wouldn't mind.
You could go
leaving.
outside just for a little bit. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we are now in debate.
Motion to move out of debate and into a vote.
Second.
We will now vote on moving out of debate and into a vote. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we will now vote on the nomination for student union historian vacancy. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, it passes. Let's give. Congratulations. We'll now look at the nomination for the student union treasurer, Lindsay.
Motion to dispense with the reading.
We will now vote on dispensing with the reading. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, the reading is dispensed with. We're now in questioning, and Kelsey is right there next to Mark. So. Matthew?
Why do you want to be the treasurer?
Well, so I've been the assistant treasurer for the last 2 years and I've worked alongside Mark. And I think it's a really rewarding job. I feel like it's a way to give back to the Notre Dame community. So yeah.
Any other, Lindsay? Motion to adopt questioning and into debate.
Second.
We will now vote on moving out questioning and into debate. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we are now in debate. Thanks, Kelsey.
Don't raise your hands. Oh, wait. That's it. No, because I wanted to take this moment just to endorse Kelsey. It's rare for assistant student union treasurer to be in the position for 2 years. I think you've done a lot of cool work in the student union treasurer's office, particularly to supporting like medical expenses and things like that beyond the disbursement of just student union organization funds. And having someone who is in full support of those types of concepts is important. And so, yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to do that because I wrote a really nice nomination.
All right, thank you, Mark. Alexander.
Motion to move out of debate into a vote.
Second.
We'll now vote on moving out of debate and into a vote. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, we will now vote on the nomination for the student union treasurer. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstain? All right, let's give Kelsey a round of applause. Congratulations, guys, and thank you all for moving that up. For next week, we have 2 orders, so feel free to take a look at that. The second one has been reviewed by ComCon, so the opinion is in there. Does anyone have any announcements? Andrew?
I have 2 announcements from Rose. Firstly, that the 100 Days dance is this Friday. Be there on time by 10:30 p.m. or you won't get in. With your Notre Dame ID and your government ID, and all that information is in an email that you got. And also this Saturday is the Vietnamese Student Association's annual Notre Dame by Night, the Bachelorette. It's in honor of Jen Tran, who was the first Asian American Bachelorette. And the show follows the journey of love in Vietnam during the Lunar New Year. And the show is on Saturday at 7 p.m. in Washington Hall. Tickets are on sale with $1 for $5.
Cool. Emily?
Tomorrow we have a Goose Cafe, and then Friday we're having Love and Bloom and Love on Elevator Lobby, 12:30 to 3:30, flowers, cookies, super fun offers. So, also executive director applications received from the board are open. If you have any questions about that, no. It's else.
You can review tickets Monday, okay, in Danke Ballroom. Line starts at 8 a.m. Tickets will start or begin distribution at 4 p.m. So get there if you want to get the right day. Show up, get those. If you live off campus, keep an eye on your email if you're interested.
Okay. Yes.
The Holy Half registration has opened up, so sign up.
Awesome. Matthew?
Just to bounce off what he said, keen review will be in 3 weeks, so get prepared, be excited.
Awesome. Yeah. Matthew, sorry.
Freshman formal is this Friday. Doors close at 9:30 Step Center, so be there.
Awesome. Elias?
Sophomore class council, ice skating Friday night right after the hockey game. Even if you can't get a ticket to the actual hockey game, you can show up at 9 o'clock and you'll get a wristband and you get to skate on the ice for free. So be there.
Alexander?
My friend, the Senator Walsh, doesn't seem to be here, but regardless, Jed Nelson of Carroll Hall is the rightful Mr. ND. Thank you.
Yep.
Language Culture Week is next week, so fun stuff going on.
Any other announcements? Lindsay?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. We'll now vote on adjourning. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstained? All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Veto.